The Forbidden's vault Jace Wilder was not supposed to be on this moon. It was off limits, locked by the Interstellar Council, labeled Ancient Hazard Zone. But Jace was not a man who followed rules. He was a relic hunter, a scavenger of old worlds, and he had heard whispers of something buried deep under the red dust of Ares 7. Something powerful, something alive. The wind howled across the cracked surface as Jace stepped through the crumbling door of an ancient alien vault. His boots crunched over broken tiles, strange symbols glowing faintly beneath the dust. He lit his shoulder lamp, revealing walls covered in carvings, tall figures with glowing eyes and flowing robes. They looked almost human, almost. At the end of the hallway stood a platform, and on that platform was a statue. It was a woman, or something like a woman carved from stone that shimmered like starlight. Her arms were at her sides, her head slightly tilted, and her expression was calm but cold. Her skin looked smooth and flawless. Even though it was clearly not flesh, there was a strange mark glowing softly over her chest, like a heartbeat frozen in crystal. Jace stared at her, then laughed. "Well, you're prettier than the usual rocks I find," he said aloud mostly. To break the silence, he stepped closer, circling her slowly. "No ID tag. No weapons, no traps," he muttered. "Weird." He reached out and tapped the glowing mark on her chest with one finger. "Boop," he said with a smirk. "And that's—" When it happened, the statue blinked. Jace froze. He didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't speak. Her eyes, once dull stone, now shimmered like galaxies. She turned her head slowly, then looked right at him. "You're mine," she whispered, before he could react. Her hand snapped up like lightning and grabbed his wrist. Her touch was cold at first, then hot, burning into his skin. Jace screamed and tried to pull away, but he couldn't move. The walls around them lit up in bright blue lines, pulsing like veins in the stone. His gears sparked and died. His comlink fizzled into silence. The vault door slammed shut behind him, trapping him in total isolation. The statue no. The woman stepped down from the platform. Her movements were slow but smooth, almost like a dancer waking from a dream. Cracks formed along her arms and legs, and with each step, the stone fell away. Underneath was skin, real skin, pale with a faint silver glow. Jace stared in shock, his heart racing. "What are you?" he gasped, still struggling against her grip. She didn't answer right away. She tilted her head, studying him like he was the strange one. Then she touched his cheek gently, and her voice became softer. "I have waited long," she said, "for the one who would wake me." Jace shook his head. No, this can't be real. "You?" "Touch the seal of binding," she said. "You are now marked." The mark on his palm began to glow. It pulsed in rhythm with hers. "What the hell is this?" he whispered. "Connection," she said. "Bond." Jace stumbled back, finally free from her grasp. He ran to the vault door and pounded on it. "Let me out," he shouted. "Someone." "Anyone." No one answered. When he turned back, she was standing in the center of the room. She raised her arms and looked toward the ceiling. A low hum began to fill the air, like a storm building from far away. "The others will come," she said without emotion. "They will try to destroy you." Jace stepped back, his voice shaking. "Who are you?" Her eyes glowed brighter as she spoke. "My name is Valara, guardian of the silent stars, last, daughter of the echo kind. And you, human," she said, pointing at his chest, "you are now mine." The room trembled, dust falling from above. In the shadows behind her, something ancient stirred. A shape moved, large and slow, like a beast waking from slumber. Jace backed against the door, his breath shallow. "What did I just wake up?" he muttered. Valara turned to face the growing darkness. "Fate," she said calmly, "and consequence." The hum grew louder. Then came the sound of something massive dragging across stone. A roar echoed through the vault. shaking the ground beneath their feet. And in that moment, Jace realized this was no ordinary statue. This was no ordinary temple. And he, a simple scavenger, had just changed everything. The awakening the air was thick with dust and energy. Jace stood frozen, his back against the cold metal door. Across the room, the stone guardian dragged itself from the shadows. Its body was like a giant beast made of jagged rock and glowing blue cracks. It had no eyes, but it turned its head toward Jace and growled. Low, like a volcano waiting to erupt, Valara didn't move. She stood tall, between Jace and the monster, her glowing skin shining in the flickering light. She whispered something in a language Jace couldn't understand. The beast roared in return, shaking the ground. "What is that thing?" Jace shouted, his voice trembling. "A watcher," Valara said calmly, "created to test your worth." "Test me," Jace blinked. "I'm not a hero. I'm not special." Valara turned her glowing eyes toward him. "You touched the seal. You woke me. The bond is made." The mark on his palm burned again. Bright and hot, he dropped to his knees. Groaning in pain, behind Valara, the beast stomped forward, slow but unstoppable. It raised one massive stone, arm and slammed it into the ground, breaking tiles like glass. Jace crawled away, trying to hide behind a fallen pillar. His heart pounded in his chest like a war drum. This was a mistake, all of it. He should have stayed on his ship, stayed away from this cursed moon. Valara's voice echoed through the chamber. "Guardian, hold," she commanded, but the beast didn't listen. It was old, angry, and bound only to its mission, destroy the unworthy. Valara turned to Jace, her expression hard now. "You must fight," she said. "With what?" he yelled. "My flashlight." "With your will," she said, stepping closer to him. "Accept the bond fully or die." The beast slammed its fist down again. Closer this time, stone and dust flew everywhere. Jace's ears rang, his vision blurred. Valara knelt beside him, grabbed his hand, and pressed it to her chest. Their marks touched, and the entire chamber lit up with white fire. Jace screamed, not from pain, but from something deeper. His memories raced backward, his childhood, his first flight, the death of his brother. Then new memories that were not his flooded in, stars he had never seen, worlds he had never visited, battles he had never fought, and a face, young and kind, then betrayed, then turned to stone. He saw Valara's past. She was a protector, a weapon made by her creators to fight a war they later regretted. She had fallen in love with a human long ago, and when she refused to destroy Earth, they sealed her away, calling her a traitor. Jace gasped as the visions ended. He lay on the floor, sweating, breathing hard. Valara looked down at him, her voice softer now. "You are not him," she whispered, "but your spirit echoes his." The beast roared again and charged. Jace stood, dizzy but alive. He looked down at his palm. It was glowing brighter than ever. Valara stepped behind him, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Now," she said, "focus your mind." Jace raised his hand. Without knowing why, energy burst from his palm like lightning, striking the beast in the chest. The stone cracked, the creature stumbled, and for the first time, it hesitated. It swung again, but Jace rolled out of the way. He grabbed a broken rod from the floor, charged, and jabbed it into the glowing crack in the beast's chest. The mark on his hand flared, and the rod lit up with the same energy. The beast let out a final roar before shattering into 1,000 glowing pieces. Silence fell, only the sound of it. Jace's heavy breathing remained. He collapsed, and Valara caught him before he hit the ground. "You have passed," she said quietly. "I didn't pass anything," he muttered. "I almost died." "You stood," she said, brushing dust from his face. "You chose to protect, not run." Jace looked up at her, confused and exhausted. "Why me?" he asked. There is no why, Valara said. Only what is, before he could ask more. The ground shook again, but this time it wasn't from the beast. It was something deeper, something far away, an old machine humming to life. The vault is unlocking, Valara said with concern in her voice. You weren't the only one. Sleeping, Jace looked at her, then at the broken remains of the Guardian. Whatever he had awakened, it wasn't just her, and now the real danger was about to rise. The Guardian protocol, the ground trembled again, deeper this time, as if something massive had been sleeping beneath them all along. Jace pulled himself up slowly, his body aching from the fight, his thoughts still spinning from the bond he didn't fully understand. Valara stood silently beside him, her gaze locked on the glowing cracks in the floor. There's another level beneath us, she said, her voice tense now. This temple wasn't just a prison. It was a gate. Jace looked at the shattered remains of the Guardian, still glowing faintly. If that was just a test, he whispered. What's coming next? Valara turned to him, her expression unreadable. You survived the first gate. That means the protocol has begun. Protocol? He asked. She stepped closer, placing a hand gently over the mark on his palm. The Guardian Protocol. It was created to judge the soul of any being who tried to access the vault's core. Only those who show willpower, sacrifice, and courage are allowed through. I didn't sign up for this, Jace muttered. Valara gave the smallest smile. Neither did I, she said. But here we are. A deep rumble echoed through the walls, and then the center of the chamber began to split open. The platform where the statue had once stood was now rising upward, revealing a spiral stairway carved from silver stone. It glowed with pulses of energy, almost like a heartbeat. Valara stepped forward, not hesitating. Jace followed slowly, feeling every crack in the air and every vibration in his bones. As they descended, the air grew warmer and thicker. Symbols along the walls lit up as they passed alien runes that shifted shapes as if alive. What do these say? Jace asked. They are warnings, Valara replied, and prayers. Prayers to what? To the last true weapon, she said without looking back. The stairway ended at a vast chamber that stretched wider than a city block. In the center was a glowing sphere, suspended in the air by chains of light. Below it, a machine, a throne-like construct with cables, conduits, and a single dark screen. Valara froze, her face pale. It still exists, she whispered. Project Seraphim. Jace looked at her, confused. What is it? He asked. She stepped closer, almost in a trance. It's a living weapon, an AI bonded with a soul, created to end wars in seconds. Jace took a slow step forward. Whose soul? He asked. Valara looked over her shoulder. Mine, she said softly. Jace's mouth went dry. You were inside that thing. I was its heart, she said. I begged them to shut it down. After the last war, they refused, so I buried it. Suddenly, the screen blinked on. A glowing red eye appeared, scanning the room. Biological match found, a voice said, metallic and cold. Valara. Designated core host detected. Valara stepped forward, her voice firm. Override, code Sigma Tau Seraphim. Suspend activation. The voice paused, then responded. Override denied. Unauthorized presence detected. Jace's mark began to burn again. He clutched his hand, groaning. The screen now showed his face. Unknown species interface. Genetic fusion confirmed. Initializing sync. What's it doing? Jace asked in panic. Valara grabbed his arm. It's trying to merge with you. The bond made you part of the system. I didn't ask for this, he shouted. You were chosen the moment you touched me, she said, and now it thinks you're its next pilot. The chains holding the sphere began to crack. A siren blared, shaking the chamber. Valara turned to Jace, urgency in her voice. You must shut it down from inside, or it will destroy everything above us. Inside? He asked. She pointed. To a pedestal under the sphere. You must touch the control node. It will let you in. Jace ran toward it, the heat rising with each step as he reached the node. A pulse of light hit his chest, pulling him forward. Suddenly, he was standing in a different place, a mental world made of stars and echoes. Before him stood a figure made of fire and light. You are not the core, it said. No, Jace answered. But I'm the one you got. The figure tilted its head. You carry her echo. You bear her mark. Purpose aligns. It reached out, offering a blade made of pure light. Prove your will, it said. Show restraint, not power. Jace took the blade, his hands trembling. The voice surrounded him again. End me, or become me. Jace turned the blade toward the construct, raised it high, then stopped. No, he said. You don't need to be destroyed. You need to remember. He placed the blade into the heart of the construct, and everything flashed white. When his vision returned, he was back in the chamber. Valara caught him as he fell. You did it, she whispered. You chose mercy. Behind them, the machine powered down, the sphere fading into nothing. The Guardian protocol was complete. Jace looked at her, sweat on his brow. Now what? He asked. Valara looked toward the ceiling. Now the real enemy wakes, she said quietly. The binding ritual of the chamber was quiet now. Too quiet. The glowing machines had gone dark, and the pulsing chains had faded into mist. But Jace knew it wasn't over. He sat on the edge of the pedestal, breathing hard, his body aching from what just happened. Valara stood a few feet away, her arms crossed, her eyes filled with something. Strange pain, fear, and something more. You weren't supposed to survive that, she said gently. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jace muttered, rubbing his temples. No, she said, stepping closer. I mean, no one was ever supposed to survive. The Guardian protocol was designed to kill anyone unworthy, but you showed something different. Jace looked up at her, confused. Different how? You showed restraint, she said, kneeling in front of him. You chose not to destroy, even when you had the power. That's the choice that changes everything. The lights around them flickered again. Just once, and Valara suddenly looked up, alarmed. They're coming, she whispered. The council. Jace stood quickly. What council? The ones who created me, she said. The ones who locked me away. They felt the system activate. They'll be here soon. And when they arrive, they'll erase everything including you. Jace swallowed hard. Well, that's a problem. Valara turned to him, and her expression softened. There's one way to protect you, she said. But it's not simple. Nothing has been simple since I touched your chest, Jace muttered. Valara gave the faintest smile. You must complete the binding, she said. A ritual that fuses your life force with mine. Jace blinked. Wait, like permanently, Valara nodded. It is sacred, irreversible, and very dangerous. Jace hesitated. What happens if we don't? They will tear your mind apart trying to access the bond, she said. They'll see you as a threat to erase. But if we bind, you become protected by ancient law, unkillable by council decree. He looked into her eyes, searching for any trace of a lie. All he saw was fear and trust. Let's do it, he said quietly. Valara stepped forward, and for the first time, she looked unsure. This will hurt, she whispered. But it will change you, she placed one hand on his chest, the other over her own heart. The marks on their palms glowed bright, then merged into one shared light. The room began to spin. Jace gasped as a wave of heat surged through him. He was falling, but not physically. He was falling into her. He saw her memories again clearer this time. Her first awakening, the war that broke the stars, the man she once loved, a human. Long gone, he saw her chained in stone, screaming into silence for centuries, her loneliness, her rage, her guilt. And then he saw himself, Through her eyes, not a thief, not a scavenger, but a flicker of light in endless dark. Valara cried out as their minds connected. The light between them became a vortex, pulling everything into it. Jace screamed too, as every thought, every feeling he ever had was stretched and examined. And then it was over. He collapsed. Sweat pouring down his face, Valara knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "It is done," she whispered. "We are one now." Jace could feel it, her presence in his thoughts. Not speaking, but always there, like a second heartbeat. He looked. Down at his hand, the mark had changed. It now glowed with two symbols. "Interlocked. Is this forever?" he asked. Valara nodded. "Yes," she said. "But it will keep you alive, and it will keep them afraid." Suddenly, a blast rocked the temple above. Dust rained down from the ceiling. "They're here," Valara said, standing tall. "Council scouts." Jace stood beside her. "We fight." He said, "No," she replied. "Not yet. We run." Valara led him through a hidden passage that opened behind the throne-like machine. They moved fast, the tunnel glowing in response to their bonded energy. As they ran, Jace felt something inside him changing. His vision sharper, his steps lighter, his instincts stronger. "What's happening to me?" he asked. "The bond," Valara said. "It is beginning to adapt you." "To what?" "To survive what comes next." They emerged into a hidden hangar, long forgotten. Inside was a ship, silver and smooth, pulsing with faint life. Valara touched it gently, and it came alive. "This was my escape vessel," she said. "Buried and locked until the bond was complete." They stepped aboard, and the ship closed behind them. As it lifted from the ground, Jace looked out at the crumbling ruins below. He had entered the vault as a scavenger. Now he was something more, bound, changed, and hunted. Valara stood beside him in the cockpit. She didn't speak. She simply reached for his hand, and he let her take it. The stars awaited, but so did the council, and war was coming. Escape from the temple. The ship burst through the surface of Ares 7, like a phoenix breaking free from stone. Dust clouds rose behind it, swallowing the ancient vault as if trying to bury the truth again. Inside the cockpit, Jace gripped the control handles, his knuckles white. "I've never flown a living ship before," he said nervously. "You're not flying it," Valara replied, her voice calm but urgent. "It's reading your intentions through the bond." Outside, the sky turned red. 3 silver spear-shaped ships dropped from orbit, sharp and silent. Their hulls shimmered with council markings, pure authority. "No mercy." Valara narrowed her eyes. "They sent Vasari-class interceptors." Jace blinked. "Is that bad?" "They don't come to negotiate," she answered. "They come to erase." Suddenly, a voice crackled across the ship's systems. "Unregistered vessel. Power down immediately and surrender the traitor. Code name, Valara. Non-compliance will result in orbital judgment." Jace laughed once, a dry, bitter sound. "I think we just got upgraded from trespassers to targets." Valara placed a hand on the console, and the ship flared to life. "I won't let them take you," she said. "Not again." The ship twisted sharply to the left, dodging a pulse blast from the nearest interceptor. Jace was thrown against the side, but the harness locked around him just in time. "What the hell was that?" "First warning shot," Valara said. "The next one won't miss." Below them, the temple's surface split open even more. Pillars of ancient energy began to rise from the sands, glowing blue like veins. "The vault is collapsing," Valara said. "It's burying the evidence." The interceptors split into a formation, one above, 2 flanking, a net pattern designed to trap, disable, and silence. Jace felt the ship's walls vibrate like a heartbeat. "She's scared," he said. Valara nodded. "She remembers them." The council ships launched energy tethers, long whips of light meant to seize and drag. One struck their wing, locking. On, the ship groaned, its silver skin twisting to resist. I can't break it, Jace shouted. You don't have to, Valara said. Just trust me. She placed both hands on his shoulders, and the bond ignited again. A bright flash filled the cockpit, and time seemed to freeze. In that moment, Jace saw dozens of futures, some with fire, some with death, one with escape. His instincts aligned with hers. He moved, not by skill, but by instinct fueled by connection. He reached for a crystal lever that hadn't been there seconds ago. Pulled it. The ship flared with silver flame. Folded once, then vanished. They reappeared in low orbit. Behind the Council fleet, the tether had snapped. The pursuers were confused, scanning in the wrong direction. Valara smiled faintly. You found the pulse slip drive. I had no idea what I was doing, Jace said, still shaking. That's how it always begins. The Council ships regrouped, now aware of the escape. But the ship dove down toward the dark side of Ares 7, where the shadows were deep and signals couldn't reach. Jace followed the curves of the mountains, the ship responding like a bird through stormy wind. Valara placed a hand on the wall. There, she said. A deep crevice opened before them unnaturally, shaped like a door carved by giants. What is this place? Jace asked. An emergency haven, she said. A place even the Council forgot existed. They flew into the darkness, the ship sealing the entrance behind them. Inside was silence, stone, and the hum of ancient power. The ship landed gently, folding its wings like a resting beast. Jace fell back in his seat, exhausted. I didn't sign up for any of this, he whispered. But you stayed, Valara replied. You chose to run with me, when you could have left me in the vault. Jace looked at her, his breath heavy. I didn't want to, he said honestly, but something about you. It wouldn't let me walk away. Valara stepped closer, her expression soft. Part of you is now part of me, she said. You feel what I feel, even if you don't understand it yet. I'm scared, Jace admitted. So am I. She said, but we can't stop now. A blue light blinked from the center of the cave. An old terminal rising from the floor. Valara's eyes narrowed. That shouldn't be active. Jace stood slowly, his instincts on edge. A message blinked. On the screen in ancient language, then translated, You are not alone. Others remember. The reawakening has begun. Valara stepped back, stunned. They survived, she whispered. Who? Jace asked. My kind, she said. Others like me. Buried, hidden, waiting, and somewhere deep inside, Jace felt something respond. A flicker of memory, not his own, a face in the dark, calling him home. The living ship, the hidden cavern, pulsed with a soft blue light. Jace walked slowly across the smooth stone floor, his boots echoing in the silence. The strange message on the ancient terminal kept blinking. You are not alone. The reawakening has begun. Valara stood still, her face frozen with emotion. For centuries, she had believed she was the last of her kind. Now this message had shattered that belief. Jace stepped beside her. You okay? He asked softly. I don't know, she whispered. It's like hearing the voice of a ghost you gave up on long ago. Behind them, the ship hummed gently, almost like it was listening. The silver walls shifted slightly, as if breathing. The living ship was no longer just a vessel. It was aware, awake, and growing stronger through their bond. Valara turned back to face it. I designed her to evolve, she said. Back then, we called her Solari Prime. But she never bonded properly. She was waiting for someone like you. Jace raised an eyebrow. I was just a scavenger. You were more than that. Valara replied, You touched the seal, survived the Guardian, completed the binding. And now, she said slowly, you are the corpilot. Jace blinked. I'm what? Valara touched his chest gently. The ship no longer listens to me, not fully. It listens to you now, because you carry my code and your own will. Suddenly, the cockpit door opened on its own, soft light poured out, and a voice echoed from inside. Jace Wilder, authorization confirmed, integration phase 2 commencing. The ship was inviting him, and not just physically, but mentally. Jace looked at Valara. Uncertain, she nodded. It's time. He stepped forward, a door sealing behind him. Inside, he stood on a circular platform surrounded by floating glyphs and shifting energy lines. The air shimmered with data, symbols adjusting to match his thoughts. It felt like being inside a dream one, made of memory and possibility. Then he heard the ship's voice again. Do you accept the mantle? Of Corpilot. Jace took a deep breath. Yeah, he said. I'm already in too deep. The platform glowed beneath his feet. Suddenly, he was no longer standing. He was floating in space, surrounded by stars. But these stars weren't real. They were memories, ancient and heavy. He saw flashes of war, great fleets tearing each other apart, planets burned, civilizations lost. He saw Valara on the battlefield, leading with fire in her eyes, protecting the weak. And he saw her imprisoned, betrayed by her own kind for sparing Earth. A final image appeared, a chamber full of glowing figures like Valara, her people, asleep in stasis, scattered across the galaxy. Wait, Jace said. They're alive. Yes. The ship replied, but only the bonded can find them. Jace's mind returned to the cockpit. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. Valara rushed in and caught him. What did you see? She asked. I saw them, he said. Your people. They're still out there waiting. Valara's eyes filled with tears. I thought I was the last, she said. You were the first to wake, he replied. But maybe not the last anymore. Suddenly, the ship's warning lights flashed red. Council signal detected. Incoming fleet, 5 ships. Approach vector locked. Valara stood, her expression hard again. They won't stop, she said. They'll keep coming until we're erased. Jace stood beside her, the mark on his hand glowing bright. Then we fight. No, she said. This ship wasn't built for war. It was built for truth. She tapped the console, and a holographic map of the galaxy appeared. Small lights blinked across different sectors, each one a possible stasis pod. A lost echo. We find them, Valara said. We wake them one by one, and when we do, the Council will no longer control the truth. But what about the fleet heading this way? Jace asked. Valara turned, her eyes glowing brighter. We show them what happens when they chase ghosts. The ship surged with new energy. Wings shifted, armor plated over the cockpit, and the engines lit up with gold flame. Jace stepped into the pilot's cradle, his hands glowing in sync with the controls. Valara stood beside him, one hand on his shoulder. You ready? She asked. He smiled. Let's give them something to be afraid of. The ship lifted off, silent and smooth. Outside, the Council fleet descended, weapons armed, confident in their power. But they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know. The living ship had awakened, and they didn't know the Corpilot had a reason to fight. The choice that changed everything. The stars stretched around them like silent witnesses. Jace sat in the pilot's cradle, his hands glowing with light, his body connected to the living ship. Valara stood beside him, her eyes locked on the map in front of them. Behind them, the silent cave faded as the ship rose into orbit, heading straight into danger. Above RE7, the Council fleet waited. 5 warships, black and silver, shaped like blades. They hovered in formation, unmoving, confident. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a planet, and they were all pointed at one target, Jace and Valara. The ship's systems pulsed with warning lights. Fleet lockdown detected, the voice said. Missiles armed. Countdown initiated. Jace clenched his jaw. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and totally insane if we stay. Valara looked at him and said nothing. Instead, she placed a hand over his. You're not a soldier, she said. You're something they've never seen. Then what? Am I? He asked, Her voice was calm, steady. "You're human," she said, "and you made a choice." The enemy fleet blinked on the radar. Growing larger, one of the council ships transmitted again. "Surrender Valara and the vessel, or Earth will be declared hostile. You have 30 seconds. Jace stared at the screen and looked at Valara. "They'll never stop, will they?" "No," she whispered, "but neither will we." He placed his other hand on the console, and the ship responded with a surge of golden light. His voice echoed through the systems. "Open a channel across the stars." The council's command ship received the signal. An open feed, public, unencrypted. The face of a human appeared, a face no one expected. "This is Jace Wilder." He said, "You threatened Earth. You chased me. You hunted her." He nodded toward Valara, who stood proudly beside him. "I touched a statue, and you turned me into a target." He leaned forward slightly. "Well, now I've seen what you're afraid of." "It's not power," he said. "It's truth. It's memory. It's people like her people you buried in stone because they refused to follow blind orders." Jace raised his hand, and the mark on his palm glowed so bright it lit the whole cockpit. "I'm bonded now," he said, "and that bond is older than your laws." On the council ship, commanders exchanged glances, unsettled, but Jace wasn't finished. "You want a war," he said. "Come and try. But understand this, every time you strike, we'll wake another echo. And every echo you tried to silence will rise again." The screen went dark. Silence returned to the cockpit. Valara turned to him slowly. "You just declared a rebellion." Jace smiled. "No," he said. "I just told the truth." Suddenly, the council fleet moved. Missiles launched from 2 ships, leaving glowing trails behind them. But Jace was ready. He didn't even touch the controls. He simply focused, and the ship responded. The living vessel twisted through space like a serpent of fire. It dodged one missile, and another. Jace raised his hand again. A pulse of golden energy erupted from the ship. Not a weapon, but a shockwave. It hit the missiles mid-flight and shattered them into harmless dust. The council fleet hesitated. Their target was no longer just a man in a stolen ship. It was a living myth, a symbol, something they couldn't control. One of the enemy ships turned and fled. Then another. Within moments, only the command vessel remained. It hovered in place, weapons still aimed, but unmoving. Jace stared at it through the screen. "I'm not here to conquer," he said softly. "But I won't run anymore." Valara touched his arm. "They're recalculating," she sighed. "They thought Earth would weep, that humans would break. They thought wrong." Suddenly, a signal appeared, encrypted, old, and pulsing with a symbol neither had seen in years. Valara gasped. "That's an echo frequency." Answering, dozens of dots appeared on the star map, scattered across the galaxy. Old ships, old bunkers, hidden survivors, all waking up. Jace watched the stars light up one by one. "They're not just memories," he said. "They're coming back." Valara looked at him, her voice trembling. "You gave them hope." The ship turned slowly, engines humming with ancient purpose. Far ahead, the stars stretched into unknown space, a path of light, flickering like a call to destiny. Jace looked once more at the council fleet shrinking behind them. He spoke softly to himself. "I touched a statue, and now the stars speak in human tongue."